Time to take a look at the primary healer role for a good chunk of the game, the White Mage. White Mages are adept healers who support the party by keeping themselves and their peers healthy and alive, along with providing defensive buffs and curing status ailments. The White Mage can even be effective damage dealers when the fight demands it, being able to dish out respectable magic damage. All of this sounds great, but White Mages are also one of the most fragile jobs in the game, making them very easy to kill, so keeping them safe is a top priority. With introductions out of the way, let's tackle the White Mage's specialty, self-healing. This specialty allows the White Mage to recover from poison, silence, and blind after combat has concluded. This specialty is super useful when exploring dungeons, since the White Mage is rather fragile, so being able to cure poison or silence automatically after every fight can keep the White Mage from dying or losing their means of aiding their allies. Pretty simple and useful specialty. Now for the fun part. Let's talk about the White Mage's abilities. Now, because White Mage is a magic-focused job, the way I'm going to structure this segment of the video will be slightly different from the others I've made so far. In Bravely Default, magic-focused jobs can learn different tiers of spells as they gain job levels, allowing them to access higher potency magics. Because of this, I will first go over the 6 tiers of magic the White Mage can learn, the magic within those tiers, and what level you can acquire them. After discussing the magic the White Mage can use, I will then discuss the remaining job level abilities the job obtains and their uses. Now with that out of the way, let's dive into the White Mage's primary job command, White Magic. At job level 1, White Mage learns White Magic level 1. This tier includes the spells Cure, Poisona, and Blindna. Cure is the White Mage's means of healing in the early parts of the game, healing a decent amount of HP to one or all allies. Cure can also be utilized as a fairly weak attack option against undead enemies, as any ability or item associated with healing or raising can damage that specific family type. This will become a common trend with White Mage moving forward. Poisona can remove the poison effect from a single target in and out of combat, useful for dungeon crawling and for boss fights that deal with a status ailment. Blindna is similar to Poisona, but instead can remove the blind effect in and out of combat on a single target. Pretty simple first set of spells. So let's move on to level 2. At job level 3, White Mage learns White Magic level 2. This tier includes the spells Arrow, Protect, and Shell. Arrow deals low wind damage to one or all allies, with the damage dealt lowering with each enemy targeted for the attack. Arrow is our first instance of an elemental attack. Attacks tied to an element can deal bonus damage if the targeted enemy is weak to that specific element, but can also block or absorb certain attacks if the wrong element is used. Exploiting these elemental attacks to increase your damage output is super important for any job focusing on magic, and that includes the White Mage. Protect will increase the target's physical defense by 25%, and up to a maximum of 50% if used twice on the same target. The spell is effective at increasing a character's survivability, but because the spell can normally only be applied to one target with each cast, meaning you need to spend more BP to apply Protect to all members, it is really only useful for a few characters at a time. Shell is pretty much the exact same as Protect, but instead of protecting against physical damage, this spell lowers the incoming damage from magical attacks. My statements from Protect carry over to Shell as well. At job level 6, White Mage learns White Magic level 3. This tier includes the spells Cura, Esuna, and Raise. Cura is a stronger version of Cure, healing a moderate amount of HP to one or all allies, as well as dealing more damage to undead enemies. Because Cura is pretty much just a straight upgrade from Cure, there isn't much use for the level 1 spell other than small heals to the party. This upgrade trend for spells is very common, and we will be seeing it a lot for many spells moving forward. Esuna cleanses almost every single status ailment in the game on a single target, making this spell super effective in tough situations. While the spell's MP cost is slightly higher, it does effectively render Poisona and Blindna rather pointless to use in combat, though they can still be helpful in the overworld. Raise will revive a character who currently has 0 HP, bringing them back into the fray. No need to fully rely on Phoenix Downs anymore when you have this spell. It has a pretty high cost, but its effects are worth it. Raise also has a 70% chance of insta-killing undead enemies, so that's cool too. At job level 9, White Mage learns White Magic level 4. This tier includes the spells Aurora, Reflect, and Dispel. Aurora is the second stage in the Arrow family, being moderately stronger than Arrow. Aurora is a decent tool in the White Mage's kit for dealing damage if they do not have an offensive focused sub-job, and the wind elemental coverage is very appreciated, as that is hard to come by for most of the game outside of the Arrow family. Reflect will repel white, black, and time magic spells that an enemy or ally uses on the reflected player, sending that spell to the opposite side. This is a powerful double-edged sword, as this one spell has many variables to remember when it is in play on the battlefield. When Reflect is applied to an enemy, keeping your casters from attacking that target is very important, and if an ally has the spell effect applied, make sure not to accidentally heal them, or else the opponent will reap the benefits. There are means of abusing the Reflect status during fights to render enemies powerless, mostly by putting Reflect on your team and then casting offensive magic on your team. Reflect can also be forcibly removed by the next spell in this tier. This spell removes stat buffs and debuffs from allies and enemies alike, making this spell very useful when dealing with enemies who specialize in support and making your life a living hell. As teased just a moment ago, the spell can also be used to remove Reflect, so if there are any unforeseen issues that you run into with Reflect, the White Mage has you covered. At job level 11, White Mage learns White Magic level 5. This tier includes the spells Kirada, Aeroga, and Asunaga. Wow, another Cure spell, who would have thought? Kirada is an even stronger version of Cure, healing a large amount of HP to one or all allies. This is a powerful healing tool that will be super useful in keeping your team alive, and is also only accessible by leveling White Mage. Aeroga is the third form of Arrow, dealing a large amount of wind damage to a single target or a group of enemies. Aeroga is also the White Mage's second strongest attack in their magical toolkit, and similar to the weaker versions of the spell, the wind coverage is always welcome. Asunaga is the group cast version of Asuna, being able to cover the entire team with its cleansing effects. This spell is a godsend in encounters riddled with ailments, and even on the overworld when trying to heal up your allies from a random trap that got the best of you. At job level 13, White Mage learns White Magic level 6. This tier includes the spells Kiraga, Holy, and Arise. Kiraga is the strongest form of Cure that, you guessed it, heals a single target or your allies for a massive amount of HP. This spell has a much larger MP cost compared to its predecessors and can be seen as more of a panic max HP heal. Because of this, Kirada and Kiraga can sort of coexist, with Kirada being an easier heal spell to spam during a long fight, and Kiraga being the big max heal to save you from horrible situations. Of course, Kiraga deals a lot of damage to undead as well, giving White Mage an even more powerful tool to use against that specific family. Holy is the White Mage's strongest attack, being a single target light element magic attack that has the potential to melt enemy HP bars. With certain support abilities, you can even spread this damage out to an entire group of enemies to share in the pain. The spell is super strong, and it allows for the White Mage to actually play a part in dealing damage when there is no healing to be done. Arise is the upgraded form of Raise, fully reviving an ally from 0 HP back to full health. This spell has a steep cost for a very useful effect, and can save fights if the White Mage can cast this spell in time. Like Raise, it can instant kill undead enemies as well. And that's all of the White Mage's spells. So now let's move on to their other learned abilities. Obtained at job level 2, the White Mage learns Magic Defense 10% up. As the name suggests, this support ability increases the user's magic defense by 10%, which can be super useful for jobs that are lacking in that stat or to vastly improve those who already have a lot of magical defense. And of course, at job level 10, White Mage learns Magic Defense 30% up, giving the user access to even more ways of making up for or improving their magical defenses. Similar to other stat increasing support abilities like this, these abilities stack, increasing their effects even more when used together. This video has been going on for this long, and we are just now getting to job level 4, where White Mage learns Staff Lore. You can apply this lore ability to any character, and they will then have S-rank affinity with staves, which is pretty neat if you want that, but otherwise isn't too crazy. At job level 5, White Mage learns Self-Healing. After reaching this level, you can apply the White Mage's specialty to any character you wish. The ability to heal some of the most annoying status ailments after a fight is so helpful when exploring dungeons and can be a reason in itself to level White Mage to this level. Once you hit job level 7, White Mage learns Abate Water. This support ability gives the user a resistance to water elemental attacks, lowering the damage taken. This is fairly niche in its uses, but can come in handy if the user is relatively weak and needs that extra protection from water attacks. After attaining job level 8, White Mage learns Angelic Ward. When equipped, the support ability has a 50% chance to halve damage taken by the user. This effect will apply whether the attacker used a single target or AoE multi-target move to attack. Note that Angelic Ward cannot lessen the damage taken from poison. This ability is incredibly useful, and I can't tell you how many times this ability has saved my healer's life in combat. Not only can this keep your healers from biting the dust, but it can also be given to tanks to give them more means of reducing the damage they take. As I have stated in other guides, support abilities with a low cost that increase survivability will almost always be useful. After getting job level 12, White Mage learns Epic Group Cast. When casting multi-target spells with this ability equipped, the damage dealt or HP recovered does not decline, allowing for even more potent healing and damage potential. One of my favorite uses of this ability is using it to grind sweet bonuses after a fight, since the damage of my multicast spells are increased tremendously. Another thing to note is that the benefits of this ability can even extend to the healing menu in the menu screen, allowing you to heal your team in the overworld more effectively. And finally, at job level 14, White Mage learns Conservation of Life. When the user of this ability's HP is reduced to 0, all other KO'd allies are returned to life with full HP. This ability is a niche but extremely powerful tool that, like most other things in the White Mage's kit, can save fights that were going downhill fast. This ability can give you the chance to make a potential recovery in a tough fight or save you from that one random encounter that caught you off guard. Totally not something that's happened to me multiple times. White Mage as a main job has one main goal: provide support and healing to themselves and the rest of the team. In the early parts of the game, white magic is really your only means of reliably keeping your team alive, and the more you progress through the game, the more the White Mage's toolkit expands to handle more dangerous threats. The major benefits of having a White Mage as your main job is that their MP pool is incredibly high, allowing them to pay the price it requires to keep the team afloat, while also being able to dish out magical damage on the side. The other major benefit is that their mind stat is one of the highest in the game, making their recovery capabilities almost unmatched. Being able to constantly pump out powerful healing spells throughout a dungeon or long fight without much issue is amazing. The White Mage does have one major weakness, and that is that they are very fragile, meaning it is very easy for a White Mage to be killed in a fight, so playing around that with either a tank role in the party, investing in higher defenses, or using support abilities and like Angelic Ward to lessen incoming damage taken is super important. White Mage as a sub-job is a bit more flexible, being more of an addition rather than the main attraction. You might find White Mage as a sub-job on roles that either want a means of providing some modicum of support to the team, or are just trying to take advantage of the offensive magic the White Mage has to offer, like Eroga and Holy. The utility of spells like Reflect and Dispel cannot be overlooked as well, since a high mind or intelligence stat isn't needed to take advantage of the potential that these spells have, meaning that jobs that don't normally focus on magic can also use White Mage as a sub-job to fulfill a certain gimmick strategy, or just to give them something to do other than their main role. White Mage can also work well with any other support-focused job, allowing them to manage multiple roles in a fight at a time, giving the other characters in the team the freedom to focus on other things in a strategy. This all sounds fine and dandy, but one of White Mage's greatest strengths as a main job can become its greatest weakness as a sub-job, its NP pool. Because most of the White Mage's later tier spells have a high MP cost, it can severely limit the amount of jobs that can take real advantage of what the White Mage has to offer. Keep that in mind when deciding for yourself. Now for the exciting part, the faction tier list. As usual, let's start with Tiz. First thing I want to note, I am a fan of simple designs, and the male White Mage design is quite simple, but I feel like it is so simple to the point where it is sort of plain and boring. Nothing other than the little cap on his head really interests me. It's just a white cloak and red shoes and gloves. I don't know, this outfit just kind of bores me. But I don't think it's super bad, so low C tier. On to Anya's. I have the complete opposite opinion of her design versus Tiz's, as I feel like the female White Mage design went a little overkill. It is very extravagant, and the hat is pretty cool, but it all just kind of feels like a bit too much for a healer design in my opinion. I think this outfit is slightly better than Tiz's, so I think I'll place it in high C tier, but I'm not going to give it any more than that. Moving on to Ring-a-Bell, most of my sentiments on the male design hasn't changed all that much. But, like the monk outfit, I do believe Ring-a-Bell wears the actual outfit better than Tiz, so it gets a bit higher in C tier for that alone. Finally, let's look at Idia. I know I just said that the style of the female White Mage design wasn't my favorite, but I can believe this might be something Idia might actually wear. Whether she would or not, I personally think Idia looks more natural in this outfit, sort of counterbalancing the flashy look. So, I think I'll place her in low B tier.